Okay. All right. And we are live. Hello, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We're going to have a really good discussion tonight. And I thought of this topic like uh, earlier today because, I'm at work and I'm thinking, oh my God, what's the topic going to be? And I thought, let's just go ahead and discuss submission. I feel like this topic was inevitable. It was eventually going to happen because that's a part of being a high value wife is being a submissive wife. I would say that it's pivotal. This is like the foundation for a good marriage, really being in that role. So the question is it necessary? Is it really necessary to be submissive? And I'm going to kick it off. I have a couple things, but I'm going to start off with one, and then I figure, I'll move on to you guys and get your thoughts on why you believe it's necessary. But the first thing I wrote down is men they want to feel respected. And so just like there are there are things that men do to make us feel more relaxed in our femininity, like when we're provided for, when we're protected, when we're loved properly, we feel like safe being feminine. There are also things that we can do to make men feel more masculine, more confident in their masculine. And submission is one of those things. So when you submit to his leadership, when you look for him to lead you, when you're asking him for his opinion on matters, when you don't just like move however you want to move, and I will even say it, even asking for permission. Yes, ma'am, permission. Like going out with your friends, um, making, a large purchase. Maybe you want a new TV for the living room. It could be anything, but going to him and asking what his thoughts are and is this okay? Things like that, simple things make him feel more comfortable in his masculine. And I don't know if you guys ever heard the term like taking care of your workhorse or feeding your workhorse, because your workhorse takes you places. So if you're looking for the man to lead and take you places, you have to take really good care of him. You have to feed your workhorse, so to speak. And the way you do that, you have to be submissive, because the more submissive you are to him, the more he feels like a man. And the more he feels like a man, the more he feels good about himself. And when you feel good about yourself, you're going to thrive more in your role, and that's what we want. So to sum that part up, just like men can make us feel more like women, they can make us feel more feminine. We can also do the same thing to them by being in our role. And I don't feel like that's discussed enough. I think you always hear the term, oh, create a space so she needs to rest in her feminine. You hear that a lot, but you don't hear how we can make men feel confident in their masculine. And submission is one of those things. And that's why I feel like it's very, very necessary. So I want to get your thoughts. Valerie, do you feel like submission is necessary? And if so, why?
I believe it is necessary, and it's not something that is forced. It is something that you just surrender to. It's natural when you're in a masculine feminine relationship, when you truly know those roles, because it's embodied in you. You are that.
Mm,
So a lot of people don't understand. They think, especially women, high value women who are boss bitches, they they're like, I ain't submitting. Submission to who? To what? So they're not understanding the submission is strength, because you're not giving up any part of who you are. You're lending some to who you love. You're feeding into who you love. You're just in catering, or not even catering. You're
mm-hmm.
giving to him those softer spots that he may need during certain times. But submission is absolutely needed, and I agree with what you said. Purchasing it, something large, you're not just gonna go and take. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna discuss it, and like I also agree with what you said. you're feeding your workhorse. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're keeping him alive. You're keeping, he's the head. He's the head. You got to keep that head the head, you know, build his strength. And I believe a masculine man knows he is masculine and he knows all his strengths. It's the woman he chooses is going to be that soft spot for him that he could trust to also take care of him. Because there may be a time where he needs you. You
Yeah.
need to be strong enough to help them out,
Right.
to, you know, whether that's physically, emotionally, whatever the cause is, you need to be there for him as
Mhm.
he would you.
Right. Right.
That's my belief.
And I like that you said that, eventually he's going to need you. And I was reading a blog one time. It's a blog this guy writes, and he said that, you know, like the scenes you used to see in the movies where the man is lost clearly and he's trying to look at the, no, 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 wait. Yeah, he's looking at the map and he's lost. And the wife is saying, can we ask somebody? Let's just stop and ask somebody. And he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want to like ask anybody for help. Have y'all ever like seen that in movies before?
Yes.
Yeah. Um, so what this guy was saying was that the more submissive you are, the more likely your husband is to receive receive your opinions and what you have to say. So if you're more masculine,
Hmm.
feels like he's at war. He's in a marriage with his competitor. He's going to be less likely to ask his competitor, his secret enemy in his mind subconsciously. You're almost like an enemy that he's in constant competition with, and he's less likely to ask for your help versus if you're submissive, he feels more secure in his masculinity, and he feels more comfortable coming to you and asking you for help. And when I read that, I thought that just it makes so much sense, because when she's in her role, he doesn't feel like he's at war with an enemy. He feels
Hmm.
like he's really with his other half. So he feels safer. He doesn't feel like less of a man. Because if you imagine, like, if you and I are enemies, you're the last person I want to get help from. If we're
Oh yeah.
competing with each other in a game, I don't want to come to you for help. But that's how men think subconsciously when women aren't in their feminine and when they're not being submissive. We're kind of like against each other, because I have to prove that I'm masculine versus just being that. So so what you said about men, like, your man or husband will eventually need you if you are submissive. He'll feel more comfortable, getting that help from you, getting
Hmm.
your opinion. So I don't remember the exact movie, but the wife in the car, suggesting that they stop and ask someone. I don't think she was submissive. I don't think she was in her role, because her husband probably would have been like, yeah, you're right. But it's like he feels like he's got something to prove. Like, no, I can do this. I don't need to surrender to what my enemy says. I got to prove that I'm masculine. But if you're already submissive, then he feels more safe, more comfortable, because he feels like you see him as that man. So I don't want to ramble on too long, but I kind of wanted to build off what you said, Valerie, because I thought that was a good point. So Ashley, Miss Fearless Feminine,
Yes.
I know you got a lot to say about this. Is submission necessary, and why?
Yeah. So I was really excited when you let us know this is what we're going to be talking about.
Hmm.
And for a lot of reasons, I think that submission in itself is like such a taboo thing in like today's society. Like when women predominantly hear that word like submission, they like shut down. They're like,
Yeah.
nope. And to be honest, that was me like 6
Hmm.
years ago. I'm like, I was raised by a man by himself, and I have five brothers. And I was raised to not, I don't need to submit to anybody. You know, like I can do it all by myself. I don't have to, but I can. And I never understood the beauty of what submission truly is. And I think also a lot of people take it very like literally. You know, like when you if you read the Bible and like if you read it literally, it does sound very much like being a taskmaster and you're serving someone else, like not in a loving way, but like very servant like. But when you have a deeper understanding of what that submission actually is, it's such a gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess like my big caveat to submission being necessary is the most important thing, which is submission is earned, not taken or given.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't just submit to any man
Mhm.
ever. That's not the case at all.
Right.
You can submit to the wrong man, and he'll take advantage of you, and he'll put on like this like fake alpha, like attitude, personality. He'll even like go through the motions, right? But he's taking advantage of you because true submission, when a genuinely masculine man is with a woman that submits to him truly, like he's earned her submission through showing up as a strong man, earning her trust and respect and loyalty, the energy around it is so different. You know, you're not just serving this person, you're actually being served back, by your man. So the necessity in it is for you to be your true self in your deepest feminine nature. Yes, submission is absolutely necessary, because if you're constantly in your masculine and you're being combative, you're never going to give yourself a chance to like rise up to your highest self. And that's actually what we need the masculine for, is to bring us out into our go energy and to inspire us to rise up to our highest self. And that's the same thing that the feminine does for the masculine. Men are great and men are very ambitious and can do dang near anything they want on their own. But I'm telling you, even the strongest men I've seen go from good men to great men because they had an amazing woman by their side that pushes them that little bit extra. And that is not only the necessity of submission for men, so the necessity is for men to really step up, but it's also necessary for women to be able to express their gift completely. It's such a freeing feeling when you can submit to a man that is more than deserving, loving, cares about you, only wants the best for you. That submission happens naturally. You don't even have to think about it. It just, you instantly come down and you just submit to him and his masculinity. And it's not in a servant way. It's truly in a loving, like, I want to pour into you because you pour into me. And we're going to have this energy flow. And we're going to keep our relationship flowing. So that for me is the necessity of submission.
Yeah. Awesome. And another thing that, and maybe this is a topic for another day, but I want to discuss how to properly vet men as well, and how women can utilize the masculine men in their lives to also help them vet men. You can use your father, or maybe you have uncles or brothers or just male friends in general. But that's important because you mentioned you want to submit to the right man. But what is the right man? Because back in ancient times, fathers chose husbands for their daughters, but now we're in a time where we're choosing our own husbands, and we don't do a good job. It's not to put women down. It's not in our nature to make these decisions. It's just really not, and that's why we've screwed it up so much. But when you look at the the what what fathers went by to choose husbands for their daughters, their vetting process is completely different from ours. We don't really think logically. We don't think ahead. That's what our fathers did. They looked at the personality, they looked at it more objectively, and the, the way they reasoned was, how is this going to look in the future? How is this personality, the way he's doing things, how's this going to play out for my daughter? How's it going to play out for my grandchildren? Whereas we typically don't think like that. We think with our hearts, and we're like on some, oh, like, don't judge him, like, he's just had a rough life, and he just needs love, and he needs like somebody to believe it. That's how we tend to think. And that's why we tend to get ourselves in trouble. Like you mentioned, you got to have the right one to submit to in order for it to really work. So, but that's kind of like a that's another topic for another day. But what I wanted to say, touch on next was there being less conflict when you submit, and that's a part of the reason why it's necessary when you have two masculine mates, and you have two leaders. You're gonna be, especially because we men and women are so different, we're gonna constantly butt heads. So when you have two leaders and they butt heads and a decision needs to be made, who who backs down? Who gets the final say? If that's not established because people aren't in their roles, that's when you have the unnecessary conflict that you wouldn't have if the woman was in her proper role. See, the it's like the male is almost always in his role because he's a natural leader, so he's going to lead regardless. It's when the woman rises up and wants to be like him, and has this power envy and thinks, well, I can do it too. I can lead too. I can make these decisions too. It's my house too. These are my kids too. It's like this power struggle. But when a woman is submissive to her husband, it almost works like 99% of the time, versus when you do the opposite, it almost never works because she's not going to allow him to have the final decision. And so even sometimes, he may let you have it. He may see that, you know what, I didn't think about it like that, because men are good at having foresight, but women, we think more internally, so we'll see things that men don't see and don't think about. And so I know that, I mean, I brought things out to my husband before, and I've heard of other wives doing that. Sarah and Abraham in the Bible, Sarah brought something out to Abraham about his son. I forget the son's name that was by the not the I don't know if she was a concubine or a second wife, but he was, yeah, I guess he was like bullying Isaac or something like that, and Sarah ended up. And Valerie, I think you're a Bible reader, so maybe you can help me.
I know who you're referring to. I can't think of his name, but yes.
Yeah, but the son was Isaac, but the other son, I don't remember his name. But and it's really not important. The point is, Sarah let Abraham know that he's not going to be an heir to the throne. So um basically, you need to listen to me. And God ended up telling Abraham, because Abraham got upset about that because he loved his other son as well. But he ended up telling Abraham, you need to listen to your wife. So she was right. So we're going to be right about some things. And Abraham eventually had to, come around and listen to his wife. And so we can, we can help our men make good decisions. But sometimes the final say is going to be left in their hands, and we need to learn to be okay with that, because submission is not going to be easy. It's just it's not. Matter of fact, it's going to be really difficult at times. And I almost wish that women who are not submissive just wouldn't get married, because what happens is that um, when you're not submissive, you get married, you have children, you end up divorcing, because when you're not submissive, marriages just tend to not work. And so then those kids are raised in broken homes, or they grow up and they see their mother not being submissive. They see their father kind of be walked over. And that's kind of my story. But my dad didn't allow himself to be walked over. He just disconnected from me and my mom because my mom wouldn't be submissive to him. So I grew up, seeing this cold dynamic in the house where my dad stayed on his side and my mom stayed on her side. And, that affected me. And so there's some unnecessary things that happened in my life because I had to grow up seeing that. And then their relationship ended up in a divorce. And so I kind of had to figure things out as well. And luckily I came, luckily because of my dad, I came back into my right mind, but that doesn't happen for a lot of people. So that's why I say I wish people that that don't do marriage right wouldn't even get married and have kids because of I know just off of experience how it affects kids. And so
Everybody's offered healing.
mhm,
Because nobody's background is perfect. Like
mm,
my dad was masculine, my mother was feminine.
mhm,
They were married, have 10 kids. Their marriage was great. I mean, I was as a young girl, I had to tend to my brothers, tend to my dad, make him coffee while my mother wasn't around, that type of thing.
mhm,
But there's always going to be junk in your life.
yeah,
So you could heal before you get married. You could heal before you find a partner. And that's my thing is I hope women heal
mm,
before they look for a partner because you could bat any man. Any man can bat any woman if they're not in the right place.
right.
And then it becomes chaotic and then they have children and then the whole cycle starts and broken homes happen.
Mhm,
But I think many people need to look into healing themselves to be a better person.
mm,
In general, just, you know, nobody wants to be trash, no, but they don't realize that what they're doing every day is not making them better. A lot of people are so blind, are just blind to the fantasies of life, is what I say.
yeah,
Blind to the fantasies of life. They think they could get a man and it's going to be all, you know,
perfect.
yeah. No, it takes work. It
Mm.
takes work.
And can I wanted to touch on that because you said, that we need to heal before we get into relationships. And this is a thing that I've even said about, when Kevin Samuels does his live streams and someone comes on there, like, a delusional woman, and toward the end he'll say, like, that's why you need to go get some therapy. You need to go find therapy, go get therapy. He's constantly telling people that. But when he says that, sometimes I'm thinking like, but I wish you had like a network of good therapists, like good therapists with like traditional mindsets.
Mm-hmm.
What these women can do is they can say, okay, Kevin Samuel said to go get therapy, so I'm going to go get some therapy. But then I go to a therapist that's like a feminist, so he doesn't really specify um, how to heal and where to go, because you can find yourself with the wrong therapist that has the same degree as any other therapist, but their mindset, and what makes me think about that, I used to watch the Housewives show, Atlanta Housewives, and there was this girl on there. I think her name was Portia, and she was married to an ex football player. And everything was going good in their marriage. She was a stay at home wife. I think he had a son, which was her stepson. And everything was good until she started getting around the Atlanta Housewives, and she was seeing, they got their own businesses, they make their own money. And I want that too. Like I want to be a business owner, like I want to be a boss too, but I also want to have kids. So they went to a therapist, and she was a woman, and the therapist was so one-sided and taking sides with Portia, and because Cordell was his name, because I remember the football player Cordell Stewart, and he was saying that it's just how I grew up. My mom stayed home, my dad worked, she cared for the children. And the therapist's response to that was, well, women work today. They work. And I'm thinking, wow, you guys went to the wrong therapist, literally. This lady is clearly a feminist, and there's a bias here because they're both women. And so, and that's my point, is the therapist didn't tell Portia, hey, you need to be more submissive, or getting down to the bottom of it, like, hey, you were fine with being a housewife, but I feel like, there was a slight shift, a change when you started getting around these women. Do you think it's your association? Do you think you need to get around more wives who are? She didn't do any of that. She just kind of played into what the wife wanted and wanted the husband to be more submissive to the wife's vision. when that's not her husband's vision. So um just to bring it all back, Valerie, to what you're
Yeah,
saying about people healing, it also, you have to be careful where you go to for your healing, who you
absolutely.
and the books that you're reading. Go ahead.
Your influences, I say this all the time. It depends on your influences. Who do you allow to influence you? What are you reading? Why are you reading what you're reading? There's going to be an outcome. Why? What
Mhm.
are you looking for? What are you watching on TV? I don't even watch TV anymore. I truly don't, because it's garbage.
Mhm.
It's a fantasy, it's a lie, and us women are soft, and we will get caught up in those TV programs, just like that woman did. It's her
Mhm.
influences. Who is she around? Why is she being influenced that way? Because we always want something we don't have.
Yeah.
We do. And sometimes it takes our husband to shake us up and say, okay, come on now, come back. You know that's not you.
Mhm.
And we do need that. But I do say that all the time. It's your influences. Watch the people around you before you take them into your home, before you call them a friend. You know, the things that you read, the things that you're listening to, question, why are you listening to this? What is it? Because even on a subconscious level, it's schooling you.
Oh
It's embedded in you.
yeah.
And on the therapy, I totally agree with you. I had to take my youngest child to therapy,
Mhm.
and I tell everybody all the time, if you're going to go to therapy, you're going to have to do some work. You can't just go to the first one.
Mhm.
I went through like 10 because I needed to know your
Good.
values. I needed to know what you're going to, how you're going to, what are you telling my child behind closed doors? Is
Mhm.
it something that I align my life to? Because we got to believe the same thing. Otherwise, you're going against me. You're going to go against helping my child.
Right.
So it is difficult finding a therapist, but you got to put in that work.
You almost need to
See,
find like a Christian therapist. I feel like even if you're not, I mean, I feel like that's where
I
you're.
say that all the time, and that's what I
Yeah.
found. Even if
Right.
you're not, go to a Christian because, yeah, it worked out. It
Yeah.
worked out.
Yeah. Ashley, did you want to say something to that?
Yeah, I guess just to kind of tag on a little bit to what Val said. When I think of healing, like when I think of therapy,
Mm-hmm.
it's like very much like your mental and emotional like unraveling, right? Like coming to awareness.
Yes.
But what I really honestly think, that healing really starts to count when you start working on your spirit, like your spiritual health of
Mm-hmm.
like who you are as a woman. Because what happens when you do that, that's when you're way more in tune with yourself as a woman, your femininity, and you
Uh-huh.
start to build up your intuition. You start to have a better understanding of yourself. Is this behavior in alignment with who I am?
Mm-hmm.
You start to have that discernment. I know for me, um, from my last relationship, I knew that I needed to do some serious work. And so I was single for 2 years. I didn't talk to any man. I didn't want anything to do with it because I knew that the situation I just left, I was about to repeat a cycle that's ran through my family in a really long time. And I was
Absolutely.
not going to do it again. Like, I remember the day I sat on the floor and I was crying and I made a promise to myself, this is not going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I went to therapy, and I do want to touch on that too a little bit more, something that's been beneficial to me. But I went to therapy and I saw this, and it was a therapist that just random. Like, I didn't look at what his background was or anything. Old man, he's like 75, and he was just like kind of kooky looking, crazy hair and everything. And to this day, has made probably the most impact on me, as far as he gave me permission in that time of my pain to be kinder to myself, and
Mm.
to realize that the decisions and everything that happened up until that moment wasn't necessarily my fault, but he definitely brought it to my awareness that it is my responsibility,
Yeah.
and I needed to do something with that. And he recommended a book to me which totally opened my eyes about relationships and how you navigate relationships and why you're in the relationships you're in or your history of it. And it's called Loving Bravely. It's by Alexandra Solomon. She's a therapist. That book is amazing. It goes into your history. It has you basically write out a history of every relationship you witnessed in your childhood. And it has you go through all these different questions and really break down, what did you witness? What did you feel? What did you see? What did you hear? And then you do this whole like kind of worksheet as you're reading and learning. And at the end, you start to realize that probably your first 3 relationships that you witnessed in your life, you are recreating one of those 3 in your romantic life. And that's exactly what happened for me. And so that was just really eye-opening to me. And it also gave me a sense of relief to know that I'm not just out here making bad decisions because I just can't think for myself. You know, I'm not picking these men because I have my picker is broken. I have a conditioning that's brought me to this point. But what I wanted to touch on around therapy was I've actually found throughout my life is that I've always worked better with male therapists.
I was gonna ask you that. I was gonna ask you, do you think that women who go to therapy, do you think that they would be better off with male therapists or female therapists? I was literally gonna ask you.
So I don't think it's like a one size fits all. I think it definitely depends on your background. I know, like for myself, I have like a very strong masculine background and I respond really well to men. And I like the way men communicate because there's not a lot of extra like fluff to it.
Yeah.
And they'll tell me about myself. And I'm the most receptive to men. When women try to tell me about myself, I'm instantly defensive. I have had a hard time trusting women throughout my life. But men, first, you know, that's just the way I was raised. I hold men in such high regard, and I have a really big respect for men, real men, not all men, but men. And so going through therapy and being able to share with a man that is safe is also really healing to you. And I think a lot of women overlook that. They think, oh, I don't want to tell a man my stuff, because don't get me wrong, we all have things, childhood traumas, events that have probably happened in our lives. You know, everyone, like my husband likes to say, everyone gets a shit sandwich. So, you know, and everyone, you know, and it's different for everybody. But what I found probably to be the most healing is that me getting to be vulnerable and share with a man that was safe and actually like held space for me and talked me through it and did not hold judgment for me and was patient with me as I'm growing and learning and failing forward. That in its own is so healing to women in general. And that is a reason that I'm actually a big proponent of.
Uh-oh, she froze up. Come back, come back. Okay, well, until she comes back.
Oh,
she's
am
coming
I back?
Okay.
Okay. Sorry. But that's like a huge proponent as to why I am a huge advocate of women that can work with men in that regard. There are going to be some women that just can't. If they've never had like a trusting male in their life or they have something going on that way, sometimes they need another woman to kind of to build rapport in that sense, at least connect in that way. Maybe they feel safer with women, because ultimately it's what feels good to you. Because if you can't open up and you can't share, then stop wasting your money. Not going there and paying. I don't know what you guys pay where you're at, but it's expensive up here to go to therapy.
It is here.
Oh yeah, because you're up north and you're right on top of California.
Yeah, I know Val. I know where Val's at.
Yeah, and we're probably about the same.
5,000 a month for a 1-bedroom.
It's insane. But it's, if you're not going to do the work and if you're not going to show up, then don't waste your money. But also put yourself out there in the world to get into bad situations, like getting with men when you're not in a healed place to where you can be the right woman. And I think that that's where that actually really starts, is instead of focusing on finding the right man, you need to focus on yourself and make sure that you're the right woman, so that way you attract the right high value man to you. And you do that by doing your work.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And even when it comes to male therapists, you definitely want to be careful with women, but even men, because there are men out there who are simps and who have been, really affected by feminism. So you'll go into these offices and you will be more encouraged sometimes to, you know, be, be that independent woman. You don't want to let a man, tell you anything or like dictate your life. Like I've seen these kind of therapists before. So you still, even with men, you have to be careful. You almost have to vet your therapist just like you would vet your man. So when you're shopping around for therapists, to anyone watching this video, if you're a woman and you're looking to better yourself and you ultimately want a marriage where you have a masculine man that you can be submissive to, then you need to vet your therapist. If you're broken and you need to heal, you need to call around, and maybe I'll get together a set of questions that you need to ask your therapist, but you need to find out what his views are on things, because if he has a more feministy view, then you need to keep looking. But if you can find a therapist that is more that is more traditional minded and understands that relationships have a masculine feminine balance, and yes, women need to be more in their femininity, that's a therapist that you should probably give a shot to. But you have to be careful. You can't just go to any therapist. And like I said, I wish Kevin Samuels would specify that more, that yes, go to therapy, but be careful, because all therapists are not good.
I also think personal coaches are very beneficial in healing.
Hmm.
It what they were for me. That's what truly led to my healing. Is I've been through therapy. I could almost tell it just, after a while it just so redundant. But I was searching for something and I didn't know what I was searching for.
Hmm.
And then I came across a personal life coach. Then things started to really make sense, because they were able to point out things that a therapist wasn't able to.
Hmm.
So personal coaches, I would also recommend. I mean, they are great in coming into awareness, into your bullshit,
Hmm.
bringing that stuff up. So I would look for also a personal coach. They're great. Someone who could bring you into awareness and into who you truly are.
Hmm. Yeah. And to that, another reason why I would suggest, for women who, especially women who grew up with single moms, um, to if you have enough foresight to know that I want to be married and I want a successful marriage, focus on getting men's point of views, because you grew up with a single mom's point of view and you're not used to you didn't grow up getting to see any masculinity. You've never been disciplined by a man in your life. You are going to encounter problems when you get into a relationship, because when if you happen to get a masculine man and he starts to implement that structure, maybe that's something that you've never seen before. You've never seen a man come in and lay down the law and get some structure and guidance and leadership, because you didn't have your father growing up. So there's going to be some psychological stuff going on. And so my advice to women who grew up like that without a father, but at the same time they know that, they want marriage and they see the benefit of being feminine and being submissive. You need to be strategic in how you heal. You want to get as much help from men as possible. You want to get as much of their perspective, as possible, because you didn't grow up with that. It's almost like you have to make up for it to a degree. And this is why I stay in the manosphere a lot. Even already being married, I feel like you're never too married or too successful in a relationship to still continue to learn, because I'm always curious about, what do men think, what do men want. And there are a couple platforms where men will open up about how things make them feel, about how certain things women do make them feel. And I feel like I've learned something new, here and there. So, and I grew up with a father. So, like I said, for women who didn't have that, my advice, just my opinion, it would, you don't want to continue to surround yourself with women and talking to women and constantly getting a woman's point of view. You want to start to try to get as comfortable with men as you can. Remember, you didn't grow up with one. You don't know what it's like to live with one. You didn't see your mom submit to one, because when you grow up with a father, hopefully, mine didn't, but you watch your mom submit to your father, and you also submit to your father. So you got two women that are submitting to this man. And that's how a lot of women grow up, and they grow up more balanced, so they know how to be a woman, but at the same time, they know what it looks like for a woman to be a woman to a man, because they watched their mom do it. There's nothing like living with your father. There's nothing like it. And I know we can't imagine it because we all grew up living with our fathers, but just imagine being one of those girls who grew up with a single mom and you've never lived in the house with a grown man before. That's got to be tough getting in a relationship. It's brand new, so that's just my advice that I would give, just to kind of bring it all back into submission. It's going to be difficult, for those of you who'll see this video later. If you grew up with a single mom, submission is going to be difficult for you. But like Valerie brought out, you need to heal. But the question is, how do you heal? How can you be strategic in your healing? You can't just go heal anywhere. You have to go to the right place. And me and Valerie would agree. And actually, I'm not sure, but I heard you mention Jesus before. But the Bible is really, to me, in my life, that's the ultimate guide for me. And that is what really set the standard between the masculine and feminine balance. The Bible was first in that. And maybe before, we didn't quite understand why, but now that everything's so messed up with feminism, you kind of refer back to the Bible and say, the Bible was telling the truth the whole time. The Bible has been talking about these roles. We just didn't understand how important it was to be in the role until we messed everything up. And now everybody's talking about, oh, masculinity, femininity, submission. We need to, we're trying to fix it now. But the Bible has been saying these things. So um, anyone have anything they want to add to that?
Just a thought, I think that something that's so really important is, I truly, truly, my heart of hearts, just my opinion, I don't think that it's for everybody. I don't think that traditional relationships are for everybody. I think that it's a good thing that it's not for everybody too. I think that there are some absolutely groundbreaking women out there that have made history, that if they chose to be in a more traditional role, they might not have had those accomplishments, and those things are inspiring. But what I would recommend for women, that if this is something that is interesting to you, is take your time. Make sure you understand what it is. And this is something that, like my husband and I, when we coach with couples, we always teach people to ask themselves just a few questions when they're with somebody. If they're deciding, is this a relationship I want to stay in? Do I want to move to the next step with this person? And the questions are, can they do the job? Can they do the job long term? And it is in their true nature to do the job. And the job is being in a committed relationship with you. And maybe somebody just however they operate does not jive with what you need out of a relationship. And that's okay. And that's why you ask yourself these questions. And the most important question is it something that they do that's in alignment with their true nature? If somebody is doing something for you in the beginning of a relationship and it's not in their true nature, it will not last. Like everyone talks about that whole honeymoon phase, honeymoon effect. That's actually not true. When you take the time and have discernment and really make sure that you are with the right person, that honeymoon phase doesn't run out. That's actually a myth. That's when you jump into a relationship based off the incorrect things. But what really reminded me of this was when you're talking about that show, that whole thing could have been avoided by having a really honest conversation up front. What do you see for your life? How do you want to raise kids? Do you want a career or do you want to stay home? What does that look like for you? And on her end, she needs to ask, what if I did want a job later on? What if I wanted to start my own business? Would you support me? Is that something you'd be okay with? Those are all things that are so, so important because you can have it both ways. I'm very traditional, very submissive to my husband, but we also own 3 businesses together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm out there with him every day. And so you can have it both ways, but we're honest. Like, I've never been more honest with another person than I am with him. And we have these conversations. We have these conversations because it's
Before
important
you got married.
before you get married, before you even get really intimate and close with somebody. People are like, oh, it's too soon. Don't ask these questions. No, if you're over the age of 25, ask these questions. You do not have time to waste.
Yeah.
Not put extra societal pressure on you, but your whole biological clock thing, that is real, very real. And also your overall market value as a woman to attract high value men, the older you get, the less it gets.
Right.
It's important to use your discernment. Don't waste your time. That's your one non-renewable resource. Make sure you're making the most out of your time and not just giving it away to any man that'll give you attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and really, I would say know yourself because there was some work that I had to do when I got married, and there were some things that I found out about myself. And I'll be really transparent. My husband, he said at one point, like, you need to like know yourself. You need to, you know. And to a degree, I agree with him. But sometimes there's some things you just don't know about yourself until you get in a relationship. You just will never know because that side of you will never get put to the test. But one of the things I wanted to touch on that you brought out was having those conversations beforehand, but also women have to be held accountable because we do change our minds. We will claim to want one thing and, oh, yeah, I want to be a stay at home mom. I want to take care of the kids. I want to homeschool. But then when that plays out, you'll say, I'm bored now. Like I want to do something new. Now I want a business or now I want to go to school. I want to have a career. And then the man's looking like, that's not what we discussed. That's not what our plan was. And so men can communicate with women before they put the ring on it, but at the same time, women do have the capacity to change their minds. So um, that's another thing that's important for women to know is that life is about duty. It's not necessarily about serving yourself. It's not to say that your hobbies don't matter, your dreams don't matter, but at the same time they kind of don't matter, not when it comes to your commitment and your commitment to your husband and to your children, because that's got to come first. Your commitment to them has to come first. You have to make sure that your responsibility is taken care of before you go out to play, just like our homework had to be done before we got to go and play. And so even for my business that I'm starting up, like I'm not starting a business and my family's going to suffer or there's going to be neglect. I have to know how to hold down the family, but run my business on the side. And if it ever comes down to me having to choose between the business or the family, as a woman, you always have to take care of your responsibilities. Women back in ancient times, they didn't have a choice. They had to take care of their responsibilities. I don't know if they got bored. I don't think they did because they didn't have the flashy entertainment industry, the Bugattis and the Lamborghinis and the fabulous lifestyles distracting them. They didn't have all these boss babes around. They didn't have all this temptation around them, all these options. So, in my opinion, I don't think they got bored. I think everybody was kind of doing the same thing. But life was about duty. For men, it was about duty. And for the women, it was about duty. And nowadays, people don't really think like that as much. Women think that it's playtime. It's like 1 minute I want to do this, but then the next I want to be a boss babe. I want to start a business. I want to travel. I want to do this. I want to do that. But you committed to a family. So I would say try to know yourself as much as possible. Know if you're really ready to settle down. If you're not, and you still have this desire in you to kind of fly, be free, and make a lot of money and travel, I mean, do that. I'm not saying don't do that. It's just that just know that when you get a family and a husband, it does take a back seat because don't be one of those women that have the conversation, agree that, yeah, I'm on the same page. This is what I want. But then 4 or 5 years down the line, like, you change the agreement. Like, that's not cool. And that's not being an adult either.
I think it just comes down to knowing yourself and knowing that we are in an overstimulated culture.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let the culture finesse you,
Yeah.
because you live in a true, real life, and all these commercials, all this Instagram, it's only maybe 2% truth.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of work going into a business. There is a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights going into anything you pour your heart into. Just know where you want to go in life. Know yourself. So you pour your heart into what you truly, truly want, and you can't go wrong. Because even if it is that you're going to search for a business and start a business, if your heart is in tune with that, and if you are true to yourself and not in this overstimulated culture, and you are feminine and you are, a boss, there's going to be a man for you. There's going to be a strong man for you who's going to come and take your breath away. It's all possible. We just don't want to get caught up in the overstimulation of the culture of the finessing, and because we deserve it. We deserve our heart's desires. But where do you put your heart? Where is it your heart is going to take you? Know yourself. That is the biggest thing that we need to, as women, know yourself. Like right now, I know myself, and I'm kind of in that raging feminine right now. Like, keep all men away from me, because I know myself. I
Yeah.
know it's not a good place to have conversations with a man today. We really need to be truthful with ourselves, the harsh truth, like I just said, keep me away from men. I'm going to keep myself away from men. I'm not going to have conversations with men today,
Yeah.
because I'm in that kind of, riding my dragon, I
I know
guess.
what you mean.
So it just, women need to learn who you are, not who you think you are, not who people tell you are, not the finesse of Instagram or social media, but truly when you're alone, who are you? Who are you? I am so many things. And I just wrote something the other day, and it was because a lot of people say, "Oh, Valerie, you're so soft, so kind, and you're this, you're that." No, I'm not. I am not. I am not. I am a rage. I am mean. I could cut you into pieces. That's who I am. I've worked on myself to be who I am now, because I didn't want to be. That person is still there. She's let out, when the appropriate time is needed. But I know myself so well that I know that she resides in there.
Mm-hmm.
She is in me. So women, take time to be alone. Write it all down. I have journals from 10, 20 years ago, and I go back to those journals and I'm like, oh my goodness.
You were
And,
crazy.
and then sometimes I'm like, wow, I could use this today. Well, how did I lose sight of that? So writing, keeping things, journaling is great. It's been great for me all my life. And just knowing yourself is a good place to be, because and then you'll be on your own path. And like I tell people, don't follow me. I'm a leader, but don't follow me. Find who you are and walk your own path.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's path is different. You know, um, we get caught up in liking individuals and the finesse of who they are, and we just like so much want to be them, we forget, like, we like them so much we want to become them. No, woman, become who you are, admire her, and be you.
Mm-hmm.
Be you. But
Yeah.
that takes being alone. That's the scary part. That's a part that a lot of women don't want to face, is being alone. Being alone will show you a lot of who you are and what you could handle and what you're capable of.
Mhm.
That's my belief.
Yeah.
I love
Go ahead. Mhm.
it. Um, Val, this is actually really funny that I love that you gave that example, like that people think that you're very soft and you know what I mean? You have all these things because
And you are, by the way. I love your energy so
Thank you.
she
much.
is a bad bitch, man. Don't get it twisted. For one
She's got
second,
Yeah.
she's got a dark
don't
side
her
to
voice,
her.
like for real. Um,
Yes.
but what I love about what you said is you're like, I'm a leader, but don't follow me. And what that is that's actually you being in your feminine. Everyone thinks that, oh, when women are very alpha, that we're in our masculine energy, that
Mm-hmm.
go energy, directive, drive. But what you're saying is the feminine is actually more of a guide than a leader. So, like when we're talking about men checking in with their wives or coming to us, or
Mm-hmm.
going to them for advice or asking for directions, that's the difference. Like in our marriage, we talk about almost everything, but I do know at the end of the day that he's the decision maker, and but I trust him that he is going to make the right
Yeah.
decision after he sought my counsel,
Mm-hmm.
took my opinion in. And I think that for me builds even more trust because I know that he genuinely considers my opinion and he really cares about the outcome and how it's going to affect me and our family. It's
Mm-hmm.
when you were saying I'm a leader, but don't follow me. It's because you're being a guide. You're in your feminine. You're saying, let me show you through example that this is possible for you to come home to yourself.
Yeah.
What I'm doing, because that's what men do. Men lead other men. Women are guides. We're examples. That's that softer, more gentle approach to helping other women. And that's exactly how it should be done.
Oh,
Mhm.
thank you. Thank you.
I'm
See,
kind
you're always teaching me something.
I'm kind of a fan of you.
She was, when I tell you this girl, she went off in this comment. I don't even, what did you say? I don't remember what you said, but her husband posted this this picture with this message attached to it. And I tagged her in it and I was like, "Oh, I think I said, "Oh, the picture though."
Oh,
And a girl, she responded and she was like, "Oh, is this what we're like in favor of or whatever?" And the way you broke it down, I'm just like, "Oh my god, yes. Like this comment." But it was something about like you know what? I forgot. I just knew that you were
yeah.
speaking facts and I'm just like, "Oh, so to your point, like we learn from each other because I said, I think I want to print this out. I think I want to frame it. I want to put it on my nightstand. I want to wake up and look at it in the morning like, yes, Ashley, yes, because you were
Yeah.
correct on this day.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and Val knows this.
Hmm.
Don't come for a man, because I'll come for you. Like I'm literally
Yeah.
like, don't get me wrong, that man is more than capable of defending himself, and she wasn't even coming at him, but
Hmm.
it was the place. Um,
It was the energy. Oh, you're frozen again. She usually comes back in like five
Yeah.
seconds.
oh,
There it is.
okay, perfect. What that is whenever women in particular, actually a lot of men do this too, but it's men that are very in their feminine when they're doing this, they project out this like insecurity of what they see. The image was like very like it's kind of jolting because it does look one way when you look at it like briefly, but when you
I
take
love it.
time and you
Totally love
the caption and you read what's on the post itself, that's the point, is to get you to think, to
it.
get
Hmm.
and see what, first of all, whatever you're projecting, that's something to lean into. Why was that your first thought? And why did that hold you up so tightly when you saw that? Why did it shut off your openness to receiving the message?
Yeah.
Especially when you
Mhm.
the entire comment thread of however many comments and everything is positive and in support of it, and you're the only one that feels some type of way. What does
Mhm.
it say? What's going on there? And what I did notice, and I notice this a lot with women, when they pop off with little comments like that, and I respond, and I try to respond intelligently. Every once in a while, someone will get me, and I'll get a little, you know, my little low-key insults in there.
You
But
know?
yeah, you know, I do a little bit, but I try really hard to respond intelligently because my responses and the things I say and post are truly meant to be educational. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind. That's for damn sure. Because I'm not married to that outcome, and it's not important to me and my mission and my purpose. My purpose is to help educate other women that there's a better way to be, and you can live a life that is so much more rewarding and fulfilling if you just give yourself the opportunity. Because I was one of those angry, couldn't see life outside of myself and what I knew type of women. And it took a big life change and meeting a very solid, strong masculine male that could handle my masculine energy. Because he out masculines me for sure. And I need, and so when I'm having these responses, I'm just trying to educate. Don't take things at face value. Lean into things. If you don't understand what it is, learn. Take the time to learn, just like you need to learn yourself. Be open to the there, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
And that's true. And I know we're over our time now, but I wanted to just bring out that women who tend to get triggered like that, um, I'm not going to assume she came out of a single mom household, but that tends to be the kind of that tends to be kind of how you view things. Anything where men are in like a position of power or dominance, it can frighten you almost because you're not used to seeing that. It's so off-putting, it's almost offensive. Like, I can't believe this man is like dominating this woman. I think she even mentioned the R word, which I heard on YouTube. It's not good to say it, but she mentioned the R word, and it's like, what? That's what you're getting out of it, so kind of goes back to, make sure you do the work, and you heal yourself before you get into a relationship, because you can get into a relationship and you mess around and think your man is trying to R word you because he exhibited some masculinity, but because you're not healed and you're not used to it, you think you're like being attacked. And even men have to be careful too, which I think men are learning more about how to vet women, but men have to be observant. There are some things that if you observe, um, you need to be on your way. You need to be on your
Yeah.
way, and unfortunately, you have to use some judgment. You do have to be a bit judgmental because this is your life, and men are more at risk because if you marry the wrong woman, it can ruin your life because she can have your children. You can be put on child support for the next 18 years, have visitation rights to a child that you went 50-50 on, be put on alimony, lose half by simply not observing and not paying attention to red flags. And we have to do the same thing in our vetting process because a man can ruin our life. Kevin Samuels brought out that, these single moms with 2 and 3 kids, like, it's like he's starting to open up men's eyes, and men are starting to see that women who have some baggage, that it's best to not mess with those women. So not to shame anyone or put anyone down, but it's the reality of the era that we're going into. Men are no longer asleep anymore, just like how women want the best for themselves. Men are starting to also see themselves as the prize too and wanting the best for themselves. That's why you have to vet men properly. You really can't afford mistakes, you know? So anyway, that's what I want to end with. I know we kind of got off topic, but I think we answered the question good on why submission is necessary. It's absolutely
Yeah.
necessary in a successful relationship. But closing thoughts, Valerie, I want to start with you. What are your closing thoughts?
This was a great topic. We covered several different other topics.
Mhm.
But like I said, I'll end with healing. And nobody is ever going to be completely healed, but you're going to be complete as a woman, as a person. So find your healing. Go find a personal mentor, a coach, somebody who could be brutally honest with you. So you learn to be brutally honest with yourself, because you lying to yourself, you're just going to dig deeper, dig deep. You're going to dig yourself in a hole and you're going to keep telling yourself lies, and you're going to be based on lies. Everything you see will be just bullshit.
All right. And to that, if you're watching this and you recognize, yeah, I could use a life coach, a therapist, I want to heal. Ashley, she's a coach.
I,
So feel free to reach out to her. Her Instagram is it fearless.feminine on
Mhm.
Instagram?
Yep.
Send her a direct message
Yeah.
because I will say, even though I prefer for women to go to men, I can advocate for this one that she's got the right mindset.
Yeah.
So, Ashley, your closing thoughts?
Thank you. Thank you for your kind words too. I appreciate that. My closing thoughts are also the importance of healing, not necessarily in regards to being in a relationship, but with another person, but to being in relationship with yourself. Because when you're out of relationship with yourself, it's going to cause issues in any other relationship you're with, whether it's romantic, family, friends, professional. So when you break that relationship with yourself, it's huge. So the healing work and starting to become more aware, whether it's reading a book, listening to a podcast, going to a therapist, seeing a coach, come home to yourself first and really get a good, clear idea on who you are. And if you don't like who you are or where you're at, that's okay too. Slow down and take your time. And the second thing is, don't, please, please, I run into this so often with women that are very traditional. Submission is earned. It is not a right that men have. It's something that they have to earn from you. So take that, be sure that you're vetting out that you have a true masculine man and not a fake alpha that's trying to like talk and put on a show, because that'll hurt in the long run in more ways than just like emotionally. So just
Yeah.
look for those things and taking your time and making sure that the man that you're choosing to serve is a man that's deserving of that of you.
Get good masculine men in your life too and have them vet him. I can't, because actually, if I'm telling you, if one of our male friends brings a new female around, there are things that we are going to see as women that he might not see because we're women. And I mean, I'm going to speak for myself. You know, I've lied, I've manipulated, I've been, I would say I've been vindictive before. I know what it looks like. I know the dark side of being a female, you know, so when a woman walks in the room, sometimes we can just like feel that energy, and whereas he may not see it, we see it, and so we can tell him, look, I know you like her, you need to keep looking,
Yeah.
you need to keep looking, and you need to be very careful. This is what I tell my male friends: don't get her pregnant, God, please, I know you guys are having sex, but please, you have to be careful. You cannot get this type pregnant. I cannot see your life ruined. So just if you're doing it, please be careful. So to bring it back, the same thing when it comes to a man. Men know men better than we do. So in vetting this alpha versus fake alpha, if you got some real alphas in your life, they can point some things out. And I'm not going to say any names, but I had some masculine men in my life at one point, and one of my exes, they tried to tell me some things like, hey man, I don't know about him, but in my mind I'm thinking, no, he's good, like no, y'all just don't know him. He's an ex now. So, and it's not to say I didn't have my issues, but some of the things that they were trying to tell me are things that kind of came into fruition later. They were able to see things because they are men.
Yeah.
So they're going to see things that I don't see. So I'm telling you that is, man, that's like such a cheat code in choosing the right man. Your father, brothers, men in your life, get them in this guy's face. Men with good sense. So I would say that's probably more valuable than your girlfriends. Really good men in your life. Utilize them. So anyway, sorry, I know I got off topic there, but that's really important because I feel like that's pivotal in choosing a good man. You have to remember, don't overestimate your ability to choose a good man. We women, we don't know what we're doing half the time. We really need help. We need as much help as we can get. So anyway, we'll go ahead and close it out. I really enjoyed the discussion. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Ashley, for joining. I so appreciate your perspective. Valerie, I guess she had to cut out, but I enjoy her perspective as well. I love when we get together and we have these discussions. You guys are one of the few women that I feel like I can just be open with, and I don't offend anybody. You guys just have your heads on right. You know what it is. So yeah. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And we will see you guys next Tuesday. And I'll probably think of the topic last minute then too, but we'll be here next Tuesday. Everybody have a good night. Bye.
Bye.